Welcome. We have people coming in. If you are looking for Desert Water Agency's tech and tips to locate leaks webinar, you are in the right place. We are going to get started in just a couple minutes here. I know it's 10:30 on the dot, and we appreciate you that are on time, but it does take a little extra time with Zoom, especially if you're new to it, to get in the room. Thank you so much for coming and giving us your time today. I'm really glad to have the opportunity to connect with some people. You know, during this time of COVID, when so many of us are either working from home or really limiting our interaction with people, I feel really lucky to be able to do things like this where we get to hear from customers and get questions and talk to some experts, which we have two of today. I did want to point out some features that are available to you, just so that you know, we can't hear you, we can't see you. You know, if you want to grab a drink or, you know, you need to take a phone call or your dog's barking, don't worry, that's not going to interrupt the meeting. But you do have the ability to participate through the Q&A and the chat feature. So we're asking that if you have questions for myself or any of our experts that are going to be speaking today, if you put them in the Q&A box, that would be very helpful. And then if you have a technical issue, you can't hear something, you can't see something, put it in the chat feature. And that being said, we are going to ask you to pop a few things in the chat based on our polls. So that'll be coming up in just a minute here. All right, it looks like we're getting more people in. My name's Ashley Metzger. I'm the Outreach and Conservation Manager for Desert Water Agency. And this is our monthly webinar. We change topics every month, and this month we are focusing on leaks. So as we wait for people to kind of trickle in here, we're gonna throw up a welcome poll, get some information about you guys. And I do want to note that this webinar is being recorded. So you're not being recorded at home. It's just us here presenting and the slides that you see on the screen. So our first poll is up. I'm going to go ahead and read the poll questions because we are live streaming on Facebook. So we want to make sure that they understand what questions we're asking, even though they can't see them through Zoom. So question number 1, have you attended a workshop in the past? Yep, in person, online, both, or no, this is my first time. Question number 2, what best describes you? Are you a resident with your own yard, a business owner, an HOA resident or board member, property manager, landscape professional, an employee or board member of a water agency, or something else? We've expanded the choices there because in the past we've got such a wide array of attendees. Have you ever had a leak on your property? And then the last question, if you have had a leak on your property, what did you do? So we're going to give you just another 30 seconds or so to complete that poll. So go ahead and click through, and we do ask that you answer all 4 questions. It won't let you submit unless you do. So, and we've already got one Q&A in, which is great. And it's a question I think we're going to be answering pretty quick. So here are the results. It looks like this is the first time for about half of people attending a DWA workshop. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming. We're very glad to have you. And then for question number 2, most people attending have their own yard. That's helpful information because a lot of the leak investigation we'll talk about has to do with yards or outdoor water use. Have you ever had a leak on your property? Wow, that's a big majority there. 71%, yes, they have. And those 29%, you may learn today that there are small hidden leaks. And it's surprising how many people, in fact, have a leak that they did not know about. And then the last question, what did you do if you did have a leak? And about 36% of people hired a professional to fix it. Oh, actually, it looks like we offered that option twice. So about 40% of people hired a professional to fix it. Our answers got doubled up there. So we will go through some assistance we actually have for that as well. All right, we're gonna move into our presentation here. I'm gonna go through some at-home leak tests that you can perform, whether you know you have a leak or not. The first step is, generally people assume that they have a leak when they get a really high water bill. Now, sometimes your water bill can be high for other reasons. Did you just fill your pool? Have you changed your irrigation settings? Maybe we're on a shoulder month where it was a cooler April, and then in May it was very hot, and you're gonna see a big jump for that reason. So if you think you may have a leak for whatever reason, using your water meter is a really good way to find out. So make sure no water is running in your home. So that means the dishwasher's not going, no one's in the shower, your irrigation isn't set to run within the next couple minutes. And then go out to find your water meter. These are usually located close to the street in like a rounded rectangular box. And you want to lift the lid off. A screwdriver is usually the best tool to do that. And it's nice to bring some gloves with you too, because although the inside of this meter looks really tidy, oftentimes there will be, growth in there. I've seen spider webs from time to time. It may be quite dirty and you'll want to wipe off the meter. And so what you see right there is the meter, and there's a plastic lid on top of it. And if you lift that up, you will be able to see the face of the meter, what we call the register, and it has lots of helpful information for you. So if you've turned everything off on your property, all of the water off, then there should be no movement showing here. So essentially the blue dial should not be rotating, the red arm should not be moving, and the dial with the numbers should be still. But if you do see that any of those things are happening, that there are numbers moving, that the blue dial especially will show you a lower amount of water use, then that's a sign that you may have a leak. So you've turned all the water off. You're operating under the assumption that no water's running, but there's still water going through that meter. So that's the best test to perform to just verify that you have a leak. And there are some things that you can do, to figure out, is the leak inside or outside? If you have a shutoff valve to your home, a pretty good way to tell if the leak is indoor or outdoor is to turn the shutoff valve so that no water is flowing into your home, and then look again to see if that blue dial or red dial are moving. And if they are moving, then that means the leak is probably on the outside, since you've blocked the water off from the inside of your property. And if the water stops moving, that means that the meter stops moving. It means that the water use is probably on the inside, or the leak is probably on the inside. That being said, your shutoff device may not be working 100%. But these are some pretty good DIY indicators that'll help you narrow it down. And then another test that will help you narrow it down is our toilet test. So leaky toilets use a lot of water, actually a lot more than you would expect. It can be hundreds of gallons a day. So we always encourage people when they have a high bill to check their toilets. And even if they don't, it's good to check your toilets, at least once or twice a year. It's this very simple test you'll see you can do in a matter of minutes. So the first thing you do, you go to each toilet in your home, and you remove the top of the tank, and you can just set it on the toilet seat, and then you put in a couple drops of food coloring. So I usually use about 5 drops, and then Wait about 5 minutes, and don't flush. You know, you're not using the toilet at this point or cleaning it or messing with it at all or jiggling the handle. Just let it be for 5 minutes. And then at the end of those 5 minutes, come back to the toilet and then put the tank back on and then lift to look into the bowl of the toilet. Now, if the color has seeped into the bowl, that means that there's probably a leak on that toilet, and leaky toilet flappers are a huge problem. One of our speakers is going to touch on that a little bit later. And if you don't see any color, come back in another 5 minutes. And if you're still free of color at that point, at the 10-minute mark, then your toilet probably isn't leaking. So you're in good shape. So that's one really easy way. And then just remember when you flush the toilet that it's going to be whatever color food coloring that you used. So I know that startles people from time to time. All right, our next test is going to take us outside. For those of you that have pools, we have the bucket test. So what you want to do if you suspect your pool is leaking, and this is really to determine like a slab leak in your pool. So let's say you think there's a crack or some sort of structural leak in the pool itself. You're going to turn off your autofill and get a bucket. And you want to put the bucket into the pool and fill it to the same level as the first pool step. So, you know, you may need another smaller bucket or a large cup to help you get the water level exactly the same. And then you're going to mark it with a Sharpie, or, you know, I was using a dirty bucket, so I didn't mind marking it up. But if you want to use a piece of tape, whatever you would like to mark that water level. And then you're going to take the bucket out of the pool and leave it next to the pool, but not somewhere in a different shade setting. So generally, I recommend leaving it right next to the pool. So if your pool's in partial sun, partial shade, you know, find a spot that's a fair representation of your pool. And so you'll see after 24 hours, you can get a pretty good idea of what's happening. So before, the water level matches inside and outside the bucket, just like you filled it. And after, if you can see in that photo, there's a slight shadow where the inside of the bucket has a water level, and then the pool has a significantly lower water level. So what you've done is you've basically, the pool and the bucket should have evaporated the same amount of water, but if the pool is losing more water than evaporation, then you may have a pool leak. And certainly pool leaks can come from different places. Like I said, this is really to help you identify like a structural problem with the pool itself, but leaky pool equipment and autofills being stuck on are serious issues too, and we'll touch on those a little bit later. So those are our fun DIY leak tests, but we're now going to go into our chats with our experts. But before we do that, we wanted to share with you our coupons. And I think this is really important because many of you said that you have had leaks in the past and that you have had professionals come out and help you find or fix them. So Desert Water Agency partners with different businesses that offer services or products that help you save water. And these services listed here are all available to anybody. You don't have to be a Desert Water Agency customer. You could live in, you know, Indio or Palm Desert. It doesn't matter. Anywhere in the Coachella Valley, you can use these coupons for a discount. And, you know, we hope that's helpful to you. The whole goal of setting those up was to help you save water and to connect you with this resource because, you know, when you save water, that helps us too. And in addition to these coupons, there's another coupon that one of our speakers will talk about at the end for an actual leak detection device that we're going to hear all about. So with that, I'm going to introduce our first expert here, Garrett Nelson. He is a Desert Water Agency customer service rep. He's been with us for 11 years, And he every day works with customers that have high water use. So he definitely knows what problems are actually happening out there in Palm Springs. And I am privileged to bring him up. So Garrett, turn on your video, turn on your mic, and meet the lovely folks we've got here on the line.
Hey, so I'm Garrett. I have been at Desert Water Agency for the past 11 years in the customer service department. And in my experience, about 99% of the high bills are due to a leak at one of these three items. It's either usually irrigation valves that are leaking or stuck open, a pool autofill that is just not shutting off all the way, or a toilet, whether the flap is stuck open and it's just continually running, or the float isn't shutting off all the way as well. So I'll go through what we typically do when we go out to your property for a high bill investigation. And these are all things you could do on your own, but we do help out. The first thing we do is we check the meter. Like Ashley was saying, we really watch that blue dial. Some of the registers don't have the red sweep hand, so it's good to look at that blue dial and see if that's turning. We also verify the read. We make sure that the reads aren't mixed up, make sure we're actually billing you correctly. And then if there is motion, we do ask you to make sure everything is shut off inside the property that you're maybe running, that you're not aware of, like a laundry that's running, or even your ice maker inside, any small water that will throw off the investigation. So after you do that, we go out and we double check the meter and see if it's spinning. And then we go, if you do have a shut-off valve up next to your house, we will shut that off to see if we can isolate whether it's indoors or outdoor usage that's causing the motion on the meter, or the water to run through the meter. And then we visually inspect the property. We look for any water stains, any heavy saturation in areas that might be indicative of like an underground leak with your irrigation, or even on your main line. And we look for mossy growth in like shady areas to see if maybe if that area is just getting overwatered. And then after that, we move on to irrigation checking. We visually inspect the valves to see if there's any leak at the valve itself, whether it's dripping water, or if it's leaking at the unions, or even leaking on like I said, the main line of the irrigation. But it's also good to listen to the valve to see if it's shutting off all the way. There's a diaphragm in there that doesn't close all the way sometimes, and that'll continually feed whatever sprinklers that are on that line. Even if your clock is in the off position, the water will still continue to flow through that valve. We also manually run the sprinklers to make sure there's no broken sprinkler heads. It's good to actually visually see that, because a lot of times people aren't out when their sprinklers are coming on. And then we check the sprinkler clock. A lot of times there'll be maybe more times programmed than you're aware of, and maybe it's coming on more frequently than customers are aware of. And surprisingly, there's also a or a B setting, and those can both be running at the same time. And you may not even be aware of that other B setting on your sprinkler clock. But that's usually the irrigation issues we find. And then we check the pool. Mostly we look at the pool autofill. It has a float on it, which, just like a toilet float, it should shut off once your pool is at its normal level. And a lot of times we'll find that it's just not shutting off completely. So it'll be a continuous slow leak at the pool fill itself, and you might not notice it in the level of the pool because of the evaporation, but it should shut off on its own, just like a toilet valve should shut off on its own once it reaches the proper pool level. And after that, we do check the toilets. We'll go inside the property and take off the lid of the toilet and do a visual inspection, look, see if we see any water. It kind of looks like smoky or cloudy water coming up out of the flow itself. Or we check the flap to make sure it's getting a proper seal, make sure it's not super mossy or covered in any sort of substance that's going to stop it from getting that complete seal. Then we also flush the toilet to make sure it all seals up properly on its own. A lot of times we'll find customers who, you know, they'll jiggle the toilet handle and or try to lift up the handle, and you know, it's best if you have to do all those steps just to get the toilet to seal, that you just buy new parts for the interior. They're not that expensive, and Home Depot has them, or Lowe's. And after all that, if there's still motion on the meter, we do recommend that you contact a leak detection, which actually just showed you the coupons we do have for their services. And that's really the end of our investigation at that point. If there, yeah, and then if there was no motion to begin with, we do look for signs of recent repairs. So just recent irrigation valves that have been replaced, recent toilet valves that have been replaced, or recent pool fills that have been replaced. And that's what we do.
Thank you, Garrett. I feel really lucky to work with Garrett and the pros in his department. Between the conservation folks and the customer service field folks, I feel like we can find the problem and fix it 99% of the time. So thank you, Garrett. I appreciate your presentation. And we're going to hear from our next expert on the line. We've got Ian Castillo from Flume. He's their utility relations manager, and he works with water agencies across the US. And he has been previously with the city of Santa Barbara. And he and I were talking yesterday about how helpful it is that he had experience working with a city and a water provider before he went to the business and technology side. So Ian, welcome. We can't wait to hear about the leak detection device side of the conversation.
Awesome. Thank you, Ashley. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here, guys. So as Ashley mentioned, I'm here to talk to you guys about smart leak detection. Like she also mentioned, I also have a background working with water districts, both as a water district and now kind of on this private side. So I'm really excited to bring all this information here to you guys. I'm hoping you guys find it pretty helpful, kind of just providing tools to you. So without further ado, I'm going to start with a basic just overview of why they're helpful to have and just the general benefits of smart leak detector tools, both for the customer and for the utility. We'll take a moment from there to kind of dive into how they're different so you can get a vibe for, I guess, what product might suit your home's needs best. And one of those products that we'll be discussing is Flume, which is a company that I work for, and talk a little bit about some features of the device, as well as kind of how it's different from other options on the market. So just to kind of jump right into it, you know, utilities asking us to save water really isn't anything new in California. However, it's kind of hard to conserve water or manage your use if you can't measure what you are supposed to be managing. So in other words, you can't manage what you can't measure. If you receive your water bill mostly every 30 days, like most people here in California, it's really hard to track your use. If there's a high water bill or if there's a leak on your property, you generally won't find out about it until you get your bill, which until now is frankly a little too late. So what Smart Home Water Management is here to do is to help bridge that gap between you and your utility by the digitization of water to help you take control of your use. So before we kind of dive into this in more detail, we're going to go ahead and run one more poll.
Sochi, can we get that poll launched for our audience here? We've got a question for people about whether you're a full-time or a part-time resident here in the Coachella Valley, since we have so many. It looks like we may be having some technical difficulties on that. Bear with us for just one moment here. All right, the poll is live. So question number 1, are you a seasonal resident? Yes, I live in the Coachella Valley part-time. No, I live here year-round, or neither. Maybe you're not from the Coachella Valley at all. And then question number 2, have you ever had an unexpected high water bill? So we're gonna give you about 30 more seconds to answer these 2 questions. And then we'll go ahead and share the results. Wow, all right. It looks like 83% of people are year-rounders. Wonderful. I guess that makes sense for people tuning in August. And then about 56% of people have experienced a high water bill. So Ian, hopefully that's helpful for your presentation. Please continue.
It is. Thank you. That'll help me add some context to what we're going through. So without further ado, I kind of just want to start on why it's me talking to you here today as opposed to someone else. The company I work for was founded by 3 engineers out of Cal Poly SLO San Luis Obispo who, like many of us, were receiving messages from their water district asking them to conserve water, whether it was taking shorter showers or turning off the sink while you brush your teeth. These were just kind of some suggestions provided to us, but ultimately we didn't really know where to start. We thought the ability to track your use, we didn't really know the impact that we were having. So they decided to found this company in the middle of what was California's 8-year record drought. So due to this whole combination of factors, we created a smart home water monitor. And this is just one option that I'll be touching on here today, but essentially it's really a very simple system designed to help you understand and manage your use. So before I kind of dive into Flume specifically, I want to take a moment and just talk about the general benefits of smart home leak detection. On the customer side, there's a really huge value. Real-time water use information allows you to know exactly how much water is being used on your property in real time. So if you flush a toilet, you can open up an app, see the use. If you run your irrigation, you can see that flow in real time. There's a bunch of benefits to knowing exactly how water is being used as you're using it, as opposed to just suddenly receiving your water bill 30 days later. Leak detection is also a huge element. I believe 71% of you said that you experienced some sort of leak on your property, at which point, unless you were able to hear it or see it, you wouldn't know about it until you received your water bill. So smart home water management helps fix that by alerting you of the leak instantly versus receiving your bill. Secondly, or thirdly, perhaps, there's a whole just element of education and awareness to this that I'll dive into a little later. Just being able to familiarize yourself and engage with your water use on a more regular basis just helps kind of enlighten you and me alike on what your water looks like. On the water district side, as a result of just having this real-time information, it's easier to conserve water. It's easier to take control of your use, which often leads to a decrease in water use. As a result of empowering customers with leak detection and having that ability to be apprised of leaks on your property as they happen, we're noticing that there's a much lesser frequency of high bill complaints, as well as a general overarching, happiness with their water service as opposed to just being stuck with a high water bill. So this next slide is one that is perhaps most important. I would highly suggest and recommend that you save yourself some time on the research and screenshot this slide. You'll notice right off the top that this middle column is more expensive. So Flow, Fin, and Buoy are all systems that are required to be installed in line, which means there is some pipe cutting to be done. You need to get into that meter pit, cut that pipe, whether it's you yourself doing it or hiring a licensed plumber to come out to your home and do it for you. That's generally an additional $100 to $200. So you could be looking at close to $1,000 just to install a system. However, all of these options do offer the opportunity for real-time water monitoring and leak detection. I think the biggest differentiation between different products like this is just the ease of installation. So Flume is very unique in that the system is installed by you, and it takes less than 10 minutes to install. All instructions are provided in the app. There's nothing fancy with it. And what's also really cool about Flume is it also captures your outdoor use. So what's interesting about options that are installed inline, which goes directly in between the plumbing system of your home, is that as a result of it being installed inline, the system has to be installed downstream of your water meter. This often completely disregards the line used for irrigation, which means you don't capture any of that outdoor water use. As Garrett mentioned, many of the leaks that customers experience often occur outdoors, as well as it's where the majority of where most of us use our water anyway. So if you're looking for something to really provide that whole home use, then Flume is the option for you. What's also quite interesting about Flume Solution as it compares to other products on the market is it's the only product on the market that is one-to-one with your water meter. So in other words, if you really want to manage your use and track your consumption, it's extremely valuable to actually be monitoring the cash register by which the water district charges you for your water, which is your water meter. What's also pretty cool about these different options that we've been available for long enough that we've been able to develop the separation of indoor versus outdoor water use. And you'll notice that these inline solutions also have that capacity to tell you indoor versus outdoor, which is really helpful if you're a large irrigator. This allows you to kind of track your use both indoors and outdoors. But perhaps most importantly, Flume is the only product here that has one-to-one utility partnerships. So our company is positioned such that we partner directly with water districts to provide customers with the Flume device exclusively. That's my job for the company, coming from a background of working with a water district and partnering with more. And then perhaps most importantly, this might be relevant to you seasonal residents, is the inline solution is very unique in that it allows you the opportunity to shut off your water remotely. So if there's a leak on your property, or if the system thinks that there is a leak on your property, it'll shut off the water. There's some issues with this, with the system thinking that it finds leaks and then shutting off your water use, and then you have to go out and fix it yourself. Whereas Flume does not. It allows you to keep yourself apprised of leaks before there's any real damage. And a big point that I'd like to emphasize is that these catastrophic leaks that end up costing property damage often start with small leaks anyway, which Flume is able to keep you aware of. So with that, I'm going to dive a little deeper into Flume. You'll notice there's a lot of blue dots here, so I think it's worth diving into. So this is Flume. As I mentioned, the installation is really quite easy. What's cool about Flume is you have the opportunity to just strap something directly to your water meter. There's no pipe cutting to be used. There's no changes to infrastructure. Your meter right now out there by the sidewalk near your home is compatible with Flume. We're compatible with 95% of water meters on the market, and the installation is quite simple. Another benefit to Flume is that there's no recurring fees. It's a one-time payment. There's no monthly costs. We all like to just do things one and done and be done with it. And then I really want to emphasize again that because we read the meter directly, we provide you that whole home peace of mind indoors and outdoors. Whatever water is being used across your property, you will know about it in the Flume app. Another benefit to this is that we are within 99% or more accurate to the water meter. So you can pretty much have no surprises with your water bill and know what to expect when you receive it. Secondly, if there are any troubles with the installation, most of our customers are able to walk through it totally on their own, which is a huge benefit to everyone. But if there are any trouble, if there's a leak you want to help find, our customer support is available 7 days a week, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So with Flume, you're immediately granted some really huge benefits. Like I mentioned, real-time water monitoring is extremely helpful. Leak detection and water budgeting I'm going to go through each different 3 of these to kind of highlight in more detail. So this is the main Flume dashboard. As a result of spending 10 minutes installing something on your water meter, you now have the capability to know exactly how much water is being used across your entire property 24/7 down to the minute. So you can see here that I can check how much water I've used today, 185 gallons. Or if we're running my irrigation, it'll tell me in real time that I'm using 20.3 gallons per minute right now. There's a bunch of benefits to this overall, just having the peace of mind that water is being used as it should be on your property. Another cool benefit about Flume is it allows you to set custom leak alerts. So after spending that 10 minutes installing your system, by default, you're automatically set up with the leak rule such that if any amount of water is running on your property for more than 2 hours, you will receive a notification either through the app, through a text, or through email. And you have the capacity to customize that to something like, I want to know if X gallons per minute are running for Y amount of minutes, and you're able to kind of suit that to serve your home's needs best. What's also quite interesting about Flume is that because we read the meter directly, we're able to capture immensely small leaks. So the smallest leak that Flume can catch is around 0.02 gallons per minute. That's about 3 fluid ounces. Which is small enough to catch, most leaks in your irrigation valve or your classic leaky toilet flapper that might have been running all night and you wouldn't have known about it. So the granularity by which you're able to protect your home is extremely relevant with the Flume device. Additionally, once you receive this leak, it's up to you to find it. However, there are tools built into the app and with our customer service team that provides you with what we call a leak wizard. Which walks you through your home, checking toilets, sinks, different fixtures in the home to kind of outrule where a leak might be. So thirdly, setting water budgets. So with Flume, you spend just a short amount of time in the meter pit. And I forgot to emphasize that the installation, although it does happen on your water meter, we do provide you with a meter lid tool and a pair of gloves. We know that those meter pits can be filled with cobwebs sometimes, and no one likes to just stick bare hands into a meter pit. So you have gloves to be able to do this. So after doing that installation, you then have the ability to track your water bill in real time. So for example, I have a daily, weekly, and monthly water budget so I can track my use and there's no surprises. I feel very in control of my use. And there's an additional capacity to also set up notifications notifying me when I'm 50% done with my budget, when I'm 75% through with my budget month over month, so that I can actually track my use and keep myself aware of what I'm doing. So with that, those are kind of just some of the 3 main, value points that Flume is able to bring to you. I want to shift gears here now and talk a little bit about the successes we've seen working with other water districts. So across the board, we're finding that more than 50% of Flume customers are finding a leak within their first month. Again, in the poll we ran previous to this, I believe 71% said they had leaks, and that 56% said that they have had a high water bill. Many of these, I would guess, are associated with leaks. And if more than 50% isn't a surprise to you, we're finding that more than 2/3 of customers report finding a leak with Flume just within their first month. So you could be paying for water that you're not really using right now and never really know about it until you install a device like this. Beyond leaks, there's also a huge element of simply engaging with your water use more. We started off this presentation talking about most of us don't really interact with our water use except for every 30 days when we pay the bill. Smart home water management is here to fix that. The average Flume customer checks their water use at least once every 2 days, which shows that customers are really engaged with the software. They like having that peace of mind and being able to track their leaks, their budgets, etc. And as well, working in this kind of world of water districts, it's important to kind of validate a need for something like this. So in a study we ran with Contra Costa water districts, almost 2/3 of customers reported that flow rate and down to the minute water use information was extremely valuable. This is kind of compounded by the fact of being able to find leaks, being able to engage with your water use. Once again, as I mentioned, results in a huge element of education and awareness. So with down to the minute information, you're able to gain a better understanding of what your home's water use looks like. Once again, we capture everything from your sink to your shower, to your toilet, to your irrigation, to your pool autofill, and a variety of different factors. And what we're finding is that a result of having access to this information, 67% are reporting that Flume made them more aware of where they use their water. And not just that, but with other districts as well that we're running programs and studies with, we're tending more towards the 80% are reporting that Flume helped them change their water usage behavior. Some of these changes involve things such as, changing the time at which you irrigate, reducing the volume per irrigation event, taking shorter showers, having fuller dishwasher and laundry loads, etc. So with that, one kind of element of this educational process associated with smart leak detection is the differentiation between indoor and outdoor water use. Very soon, Flume will be able to capture indoor versus outdoor water use, allowing you to build water budgets for each. So if you're a high irrigator, you'll be able to allocate time towards strictly your outdoor water use if that's of interest to you. With that, that just about concludes my presentation. If you're interested in purchasing the Flume or just investigating this more, Desert Water Agency is partnered with Flume with a special discount. www.flumewater.com is our website. If you add a /DWA, you'll be taken directly to a landing page where you can learn more about the Flume and purchase one if you're so interested. So with that, thank you all very much for listening to me today. If there's any questions, be you a customer stuck with a high water bill looking to take better control of their use, or a water utility thinking about making tools like this available to your customers, I'd be more than happy to speak to you. Working on the water district side as well as kind of on this private side has allowed some pretty cool insight as well as just learning how people use their water. So please, by all means, feel free to reach out to me, and thank you all very much.
Thank you so much, Ian. That was really great. There's so much to learn. And there are so many different products out there. We appreciate you diving in a little closer to Flume. I do want to acknowledge that we don't endorse any specific brand or product, but we definitely do encourage you to look at some sort of in-home leak detection device, whether it's a Flume like Ian has discussed today, or Fin or Buoy, Guardian. There are lots of different brands out there. And I encourage you to, look at Ian's chart, do some homework on your own, and look at that. And the same is true with our leak detection providers. While we have coupons available for them, we're a government agency and we don't endorse any companies. These are companies that have gone out of their way to partner with us and help provide you discounts. And the Flume discount is also available directly on the Desert Water Agency website. So we are going to move into our Q&A session here. So we do have a couple questions in the Q&A box here. We're going to ask you to type in some more. I've shared with you a link to some resources just so that you have them. So if you want to look in the chat box, you'll see a couple different URLs there. And I did want to share with you, one of the questions we're getting is about doing a leak check at home. In August, we sent all of our customers, I don't know if you can see this, a leak check insert with their bill. And it goes through all the different steps that you can do, checking toilets, checking different faucets, making repairs indoors, and then outdoors as well. So it's a really handy tool, and if you didn't happen to save it when you got your water bill this month, you can get it at that URL that I've shared, dwa.org/check4leaks. Okay, and with that, we're going to dive into some questions. So I'm going to invite Garrett and Ian back on the screen here. So we're getting some questions about water agencies coming out and doing a check. I think I can help with that one. Typically these high bill investigations that Garrett mentioned are really only in the instance of an extreme high bill. that we can't troubleshoot remotely. You know, the goal is always to help get you that information so that as soon as possible, someone on property, usually a landscaper or someone on the landscape committee at an HOA, can do a walk of the property and identify and find and fix it right away. These high bill investigations are, you know, kind of a tool of last resort, because it does take some time for us to get out there, and we don't want the leak to persist during that time. The conservation department, which I am in, does offer water audits for HOAs. However, during the pandemic, what we are doing is we are doing what we call virtual water audits. So we can set up a phone call, and it can be a FaceTime or a video phone call, or it can just be a traditional phone call. And we would go through with someone on the landscape committee of the HOA, walk through the property, just kind of like we did today, talking about all the different steps you would want to take along the way and looking for where you may have leaks. We can even look at the settings of your irrigation controller if you want to send us a picture, or if you want to video chat with us. We're happy to help you that way. So we'll have our information up on the screen here in a moment, and I'll throw it in the chat as well so that you can reach out to us to get one of those set up. And then we have another question here. This one's a good one for Ian. So someone's asking about their meter being far away from their unit. So they live in a condo and the common area is kind of far away where the meter is. Will it still work in that case?
Yeah, great question. So to answer you, Michelle and Yanis, I guess I can answer this in two ways. So Flume is able to transmit your water use information up to 1,000 feet from your home. So we have many customers, some of which are huge irrigators with 2 to 4 acres of land. And even with their meter pit being close to or farther than 1,000 feet from their home, Flume is able to transmit that water data and provide you access to that information. So to answer the question in the condo, yes, Flume will be able to transmit that water data. And to answer the second question of, you know, can you really install this yourself? My parents' home is actually a condo in Orange County, and my mom is 62 and just more than 5 feet tall. She's not a techie woman. She has trouble Zooming. She's a teacher and had trouble figuring that out. And she was able to walk through the whole installation within 15 minutes. It's really pretty intuitive. And even in the off chance that you're not able to install the system yourself, our customer support team is right there to answer any questions live. We generally respond to questions in less than a minute and are able to get through all of these installations fairly quickly. We have tens of thousands of devices installed in all 50 states, all of which were self-installed. So yes, I'm fairly confident that you would be able to install a system yourself.
Great. Someone else asked about a limit on the Flume discount, Ian. So the Desert Water Agency discount, 1 per customer, is that right?
Yes, 1 per customer, and there's no time limit that we expect that this discount and partnership will be ongoing for the rest of time. So whatever time you need to run your R&D and research on different leak detection products, that discount will be available to you.
Very good. And Garrett, I've got a question for you. How are you able to determine a meter's accuracy in the field? I know sometimes customers have a hard time, you know, if they can't easily find the leak, maybe they're not sure that there is a leak and they think maybe the meter is wrong. Can you talk to us a little bit about your experience with testing meters and how the agency makes sure that they're accurate?
Yeah, well, before any meter or register is installed in the ground, it goes through a test on a testing bench down in the meter shop. And we make sure they meet the requirements of 98.5 to 101.5% accuracy before they even go in the ground. And then if it comes down to you needing a test while it is in the ground, there would have to be no motion on the meter indicating or no leak at all. And we are able to bring out a tank that measures exactly 1 cubic foot of water, which would be 1 full rotation on your register if your register has a sweep, red sweep hand. And if if it doesn't, we just go off of the digits, but we fill that tank up, and it has to meet that same requirement of 98.5 to 101.5. But most of the time, if we do end up testing them in the field, they end up testing low, because with age, with registers or age on the meter, they tend to slow down or allow some sort of slippage, which means they allow a little bit more water to flow through without actually registering the full consumption. But those are really the two ways we test them, either before they go in the ground, and then once they're in the ground, we'll have to go out and do a physical test with the tank and everything.
That's a great point. How often would you say you find that there are issues with the meters that are in the ground? You said that they generally read low. Have you ever found meters just reading high out in the ground, or what's your experience with that?
No, never. We've never really found a register that is overreading. If there is an issue where it is overread by us physically, we do rereads. So if the read comes up 3 times higher than it normally would, we go out and we verify that read before we even send you the bill, just to make sure there was no mistake on our end. And then, yeah, no. Other than that, we very few issues with it ever overreading. It's always under.
That's really interesting too, because what that means is that if you do get a new meter, whether it's because you're complaining that yours isn't accurate or because your meter's just old and needs to be replaced, your water usage may go up just because of that, because we're putting a more accurate device in the ground.
Yeah, correct. I've even warned some customers of that.
Yeah, very interesting. Okay. Let's see. Does anyone else have any other questions? It looks like we've answered the questions that are in the Q&A box. I did get a note from somebody that people who are on auto pay or paperless billing would not have received this handy leak check document. They would have gotten it as an attachment to their bill if they sign in electronically. Or they can access it in one of the links that I sent out at dwa.org/check4leaks. It is available for download there, along with the other resources that we've discussed today, or dwa.org/coupons if you would like to be connected with a leak detection professional or with a Flume device discount. So we're going to do our wrap-up poll now, and while we get that done, please, if you have any last-minute questions, we'd love to see them answered. And the other thing I would like to note is if we have any attendees on the line who are with landscaping companies, please go ahead and put the name of your company and contact information in the box. We keep a list of the landscapers who attend our workshops on our website for customers in the event that they are looking for a landscaper. You know, we don't recommend anyone specifically. We just have a whole wide list of people that have engaged with us in the past, just so our customers can have that information at hand. I would say people ask me at least once a week for the name of a landscaper. And we always just point to this list as, you know, here's a list of people who have come to one of our workshops. So we're going to throw that poll up there to wrap up here. And then we are getting in a couple last minute questions, which is great. So can we see the poll on the screen? I don't think you guys can see it yet. We're getting it going now, so give us just a moment. All right, so thank you for coming. We wanna know, did you learn something new today? Your options are yes, you learned a lot. Yes, maybe 1 or 2 things, or nope, I'm a pro. I knew it all before I got here. And then the second thing we are asking is, do you think these webinars are a good tool that we should continue to offer? Definitely yes, no, the online format doesn't work well, or no, the information itself isn't very helpful. And then lastly, we were wondering how you heard about this webinar. Knowing that will really help us with promoting the future webinars. And we're gonna get your answers here, and then we'll talk to you a little bit about our next webinar as well. So we're gonna give you about 30 seconds more to fill out the poll. And let's get those poll results live to the audience. So 77% learned a lot, excellent. And then 23% learned one or two things. Every single person that came to the webinar learned something. So Ian, Garrett, you guys did a great job then. That means we did it right. And then yes, DWA should offer these in the future. People are interested in attending. So again, we'll share information about our next webinar with you. And then it seems like most people learned about this from email. So we'll continue to use that list and keep your eye out. Hopefully we don't end up in your junk mailbox. All right, thank you for those results. We're gonna go ahead and get our next webinar will be in September, and we're gonna be talking about efficient overseeding. So as many of you know, here in the Coachella Valley, overseeding is something that's done typically September, October timeframe. We actually have some tips if you're going to do it to help you do it more efficiently. So we're going to hear from some experts on that, and then talk to some people who may suggest to just skip it, which is a perfectly good option. And we have a note that the webinar recording will be available on our website at dwa.org/virtual. It will also be available on YouTube and Desert Water Agency social media, which you see up here on the screen. And then we did have a couple of last minute questions pop in. So we are going to answer those. When you are checking the meters, how long should the water be shut off to gain an accurate check? Garrett, could you handle that one?
Well, it just really depends on how far the shutoff valve is from the back of the meter. If it's directly behind the meter, as soon as you shut it off, the motion should basically completely stop right away. If it's a little bit further, it might take a little bit of time to fill up the pipe.
So maybe like a minute max?
Yeah, but it's usually really quick. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So there we go, just a minute or so. So that's that. And yes, save the date. We're looking at September 23rd for our next webinar, and that will be at noon. We're going to try it at noon, hopefully get a little better attendance. Maybe some people who are on their lunch break from work will be able to tune in and share with us. So thank you all so very much for spending the time with us today. It's such a treat to be able to see you guys and to hear questions. We are always available. Please feel free to reach out to us in whatever way works best for you. You know, we're happy to speak with you on the phone and get into details and nitty-gritties about your individual leak situations on your properties. So don't hesitate to reach out. Thanks again to our lovely speakers, Garrett and Ian. You guys did a great job, and we will see you next month. Bye-bye.
See ya.